Hey guys, today we'll be running you through the installation of our Hennessey air induction kit for a 6.2 liter F-150 and Raptor. Tools needed to install the kit will be a 8mm socket, a T20 Torx bit for the mass airflow sensor, 13mm wrench, 11mm wrench, and a Phillips screwdriver. Parts included in the installation are going to be a new powder coated air induction tube, new K&N filter, bracketry and hardware, silicone, and worm clamps. Okay, we'll start the installation by disconnecting the negative battery terminal of the truck. This will prevent any electrical arcing. It's also a good idea to do this whenever you're plugging in or unplugging electrical components in the vehicle. It'll also help clear the adaptive calibration that the vehicle has stored. That way when we start the truck up after the installation, it'll have something to learn from. Next, there will be a red clip on the bottom of the mass airflow sensor. It's kind of hard to see from the top, but the clip will pull out, and then when you depress it, to unplug it. That's how the clip works here. Once it plugs in, it slides back in to lock itself. Next, we use an 8mm socket. I'm using a driver, but you can just use a regular ratchet or a flathead even to unscrew the worm clamp on the factory induction tube. After that's loose, there's 3 clips on the bottom of the airbox here. Just pull them back, and the whole tube will lift up and out of the vehicle. At this point, you can also discard the factory air filter. All right, once the factory air induction's off of the vehicle, you use a T20 Torx bit to remove the 2 screws holding in the factory mass airflow sensor. Two factory screws will not be reused. You'll actually use the 2 Phillips head screws that come with your kit. The mass airflow sensor can only go in one way because of the screws that are on the intake tube. You may have some stickers from powder coating over the holes. You can just pull them right off. Make sure that your O-ring on your mass airflow sensor is good and intact. The sensor's clean, in good shape before you install it. Always hand start the Phillips screws. Be careful not to cross thread them. Just go ahead and snug them down that you don't have to go crazy tight on them. All right, grabbing one of the provided couplers, we'll place that onto the factory air silencer along with the 2 clamps that are made to go on it. Once it's pressed all the way on, you can tighten the clamp using an 8mm socket on the air silencer. After that, you'll take your new K&N filter and your other provided silicone clamp. Place the clamp onto the end of the filter. And use the last 2 worm clamps. Slip them over the silicone. Once the silicone coupler is installed onto the filter, you'll use your provided clamp. You'll place it on the end of the filter. And there's a flat washer, a lock washer, and a nut included. You'll screw that loosely onto the end of the filter. Just about 1 or 2 turns, you'll leave it loose. This will help aid in the installation once it goes into the truck. All right, back onto the truck, there's a 13mm bolt in the fender well that holds the factory lower airbox on. You can go ahead and loosen this. This is what your new filter bracket will mount to. And you can utilize the factory bolt through our bracket. and just kind of finger tight, leave it loose. That way as you put the tube on, you can kind of move this around, and then once everything's in place, you can snug it down. Once the filter's in, you'll grab your new tube along with the installed mass airflow sensor and actually install it between the air silencer and the new filter. You can tighten your worm clamps with an 8mm socket. Once the tube's installed, you can take your 13mm wrench again and retighten the bolt going to the fender liner. After that's tight, you can use an 11mm wrench. A gear wrench works best to get into the tight space, but to tighten the bolt on the end of the air filter. Once that's complete, you can plug the factory mass airflow sensor back in until it clicks, and then push in the red pin on the bottom. Now that the induction system is completely installed, you can come back to your negative battery cable and reconnect it using an 8mm socket.